10 days ago at Crossmaglen, there had been a massive police and army presence at the funerals of the 2 IRA men blown up by their own bomb. Despite all the security, uniformed IRA men carried Brendan Burns' coffin from the church. When the RUC went in, bitter clashes followed. Afterwards, there was widespread criticism of the scale of the security operation. And 2 days ago, in a West Belfast side street, the IRA paid their tribute to the 3 shot in Gibraltar. Afterwards, they said they hoped the funerals would now be peaceful and dignified. The police and the family said exactly the same. And from the moment early this morning when the first coffin, that of Danny McCann, was brought out, peaceful and dignified it all was. Sinn Féin officials draped the coffin in the Irish flag, but there were no signs of uniformed men or of the police and army. Sinn Féin's Danny Morrison helped carry the coffin. McCann's burying gloves, the emblems of his IRA membership, were carried by his widow Margaret. Although large crowds were already following the coffins, it was clear that the police and army were keeping a very much lower profile than usual. Very few patrols were out on the streets, and they were keeping well away from the funerals. The army were ringing the area, checking cars and ready to move in case of trouble. Meanwhile, the McCann and Savage processions arrived at St Agnes's Church, Andersonstown, for Mass to be heard for the 2 men. As a large crowd waited outside, inside, Father Tom Toner told the congregation that if Christian rules were applied, the Gibraltar shootings were murder.
Where the commandments of God apply, these killings were murder, just as the killing of soldiers and policemen is murder.
After Mass, Mairead Farrell's hearse joined the other 2, and all 3 began the journey to Milltown Cemetery. Sinn Féin officials were obviously in control, and there had been absolutely no disorder. There were no soldiers or police anywhere to be seen. The massive procession, peaceful and dignified, was heading for Milltown and the attack. Before today, Sinn Féin had called on the police and army to stay away. After the attack, their president called their low-profile collusion.
To launch that attack, those involved must have had pre-notice there would be no RUC or British Army presence, as there was up until yesterday evening, around these funerals. We are asserting that they had pre-notice and that there was collusion.
But Mr. Adams said there should be no reprisals. An hour later, the Northern Ireland Secretary emerged from Stormont Castle to condemn the Milltown attack.
The funerals were proceeding in a peaceful way and without violence until this insane and depraved attack took place.
This is one of the men who committed the attack on the funeral. He's a Protestant from East Belfast, and one report in Belfast tonight says he tried to join the UDA but was turned down. The UDA tonight have categorically denied they were involved, but on Monday they held a press conference to announce their armed wing, the UFF, would be stepping up attacks on the IRA. Tonight there is sporadic disorder in Republican areas. Buses have been hijacked and set on fire, and there are reports of petrol bomb attacks. And the peace and dignity so many desired and might have achieved if only for one day looked as if they were going up in flames. David Rose, News at 10, Belfast.